Welcome to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you burn fat, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey there, it's your host, Debbie Potts, and I want to give you a little info before we get started on the new episode we have for you today. I'm so excited to share with you that I am a presenter at Ketocon, and it's coming July 8th to July 10th in Austin, Texas, 2022 at the Palmer Event Center. Ketocon is an annual event, usually held in Austin, Texas, and they're the largest conference in the U.S. focused just on the science and the stories of keto. And they'll have 50 speakers and over 250 qualified keyword keto vendors. So there won't be a bunch of keto labeled junk for you. So this is a great conference to be a part of, meet your community, your tribe. It's pretty amazing. And the speakers are impressive. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach when you do keto. As we talk about on this show, the Low Carb Athlete Podcast is about all things keto, but also lifestyle habits. And this conference will give you a lot of information that we are all unique. We all have unique needs and preferences. Ketocon is going to teach us that. It's the absolutely best place to meet your like-minded people, your tribe, your people that you love to connect with in person. Learn about strategies for success and how to gather all the tools that you need to get the support you need to lead this healthy, fit lifestyle, to help you reach your goals to be fit and healthy from the inside out. You'll be surrounded by thousands of people who are equally excited and motivated about improving their lives. So trust me, this is a great event you don't want to miss out on. Use my code Low Carb Athlete, capital L, Low Carb Athlete, all one word, on checkout, and you will get 10% off each ticket in your order. And it will apply to a 1-day, 3-day, or VIP passes. So be sure to click on the link in the show notes, get your ticket, get your airfare while the prices are low, get your hotel rooms close to the conference so you can meet me, and we'll go for morning runs and do some outdoor strength workouts and have a great time, plus eat amazing barbecue. So the code will be active until July 1st, 2022, but I would register now. Get that travel details all set up, and we will see you there, as I will be talking about tips and tricks to fuel, train, and perform as a low-carb athlete. So see you there. And now let's get to the show. Hey guys, it's Debbie Potts, and I'm recording a podcast with you to catch up on what I've been doing the last few months, as I stopped recording podcasts since the summer, and it's now suddenly November. And I had to step away to kind of reassess what drives me to do this podcast, as it costs me money. I'm not a major podcaster that has sponsors and has hundreds of thousands of downloads. I'm just me doing this because I want to help you, the driven, ambitious, high-performing individual and athlete, to avoid going down that hole that I did years ago, starting in 2013, when I was doing all the right things. I was doing fasted workouts. I was doing the bulletproof fat coffee. I was very low carb. I was fasting. I was doing keto before we even knew about it. So I've done all that. And that was almost over 10 years ago. And then my adrenal exhaustion hit me in 2013. I was forced to quit Ironmans and 50K races and marathons, all the endurance stuff I love to do, because I was broken and I haven't been the same since. So my mission is to help you. The podcast I've had since 2011. If you followed us from the beginning, we've had a lot of name changes, but John Smith and I started Fit, Fat, Fast in 2011 and had amazing guests on the show. We had 100 episodes with all these people that were on the show before they were huge, as Vinnie Tortorich, Jimmy Moore. We had Ben Greenfield and all these other top experts on low carb and fasting and keto and fat adapted processes, metabolic efficiency, metabolic flexibility. So we have all that in the archives on my website, debbiepotts.net, if you want to go back and search for Fit, Fat, Fast, the first 100 episodes. From that time frame, John wasn't able to continue the podcast. We lost the host name. I had to restart, and had this great idea on a car ride to Whistler once that what's a name for a new podcast? Well, we thought, shut the front door. Like, all this stuff's shocking information. Let's do that. So it wasn't actually the best idea. And over time, I had some consults with mentors as Sean Croxton, like, what's my brand? It's the holistic method, training the whole you from the inside out to improve your ability to burn fat, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. So why not call the podcast The Whole Athlete? And then I got a letter January 2020 from a Whole Athlete gym in San Francisco, a cease and desist letter. So I had to change the name, and which was fine. Went to the Low Carb Athlete, which is kind of what we've been talking about for many years, 10 years, about how carbs are not as needed as we used to think. And not all carbs are bad. And we're not saying zero carbs for an athlete. And talking about, what is good for you as an individual, how much macronutrients of fat, protein, and carbs do you need to optimize your fat burning machine that is our natural gas tank we should be accessing. So anyways, I had to step away the last few months and reassess, should I quit? Should I do this podcast anymore? Because I don't have the numbers that I need to get sponsors. I don't really have the motivation or the finances to hire someone to make it bigger and better and to fine tune all the editing and the social media presence and all that. When we started 10 years ago, there was barely any podcasts as there are today to choose from. And to focus on the endurance athlete, the triathlete, the marathoner, the ultra runner, people that are doing endurance sport that are like me, type A, AAA. I'm not as intense as I used to be. I learned the hard way, but those are my people. You are my person listening to me probably now that we need a little support. We have a little different niche to go into, and how we can really improve our performance, but look at the aging process. Are we doing what we're doing right now? Is it good for us in the future? What is my future self going to be like 10 years from now? I just turned 50 last week. Am I doing what I'm doing now that's going to improve how I'm feeling at 60, 70, 80 years old? I'm more interested in that than hammering myself in the ground and damaging myself for the future me. And I know I coach for Ben Greenfield, and he is kind of transformed himself over the years. If you've been following him, and really getting out of the Spartan races that he was doing and competing at high level there, but also before that Ironmans, and how it really impacted his health and longevity. So kind of you learn from your own experience. We follow our journey. Now this is our passion and our purpose to help you avoid going through that downhill spiral and creating that metabolic chaos in your body. So I'm going to kick off this little intro to the podcast returning January 2022 with some information on fasting. So that is kind of my focus right now, because as a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, FDN, and nutritional therapy practitioner, functional NTP, I do lab testing with clients and correlate that information with their signs and symptoms of our nutritional therapy analysis. I look at what I call the holistic method, working on nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress, movement, digestion, gut health, and more happiness and hydration. So lessons learned, how many female athletes that I know that I've been helping are fasting too much, eating too low carb, because they're like me, the old me that we tend to take those guidelines that we get from other fasting podcasts and blogs and take that information and apply it to our own life when we're already driven, living life as a race, pushing the envelope too far. We add in fasting, which is great. I'm all for fasted, but do we need to go that long fasting? When should we learn how to break our fast? When should we eat before a workout? What type of workout would we create more damage by not eating and improve our performance and maybe speed up fat loss if we did eat something? So much to go into. There's not a lot of research for the female. A lot of the research is done on the men. I'm trying to get some different experts coming on the show the next few months. I'm booking out people through the winter season and getting some experts to explain, as Dr. Dan Plews had a good study on fasting and exercise. And then we know Dr. Stacy Sims has her opinion of fasting's bad and her nutritional information is going to be different. And so everyone's going to have different opinions. My philosophy is that N=1. Experiment. I have NutriSense on, a CGM, and I think it's really important to test and not guess. Get your labs test, get a full thyroid panel done, get your GI stool test, a GI map or Genova Diagnostics. Get a nutrient test. I did food zoomers from Vibrant Wellness and tested my sensitivity to wheat, to corn, eggs, and dairy, and a food sensitivity panel. You don't know what you don't know. So test and not guess. It costs money, but I spent years trying to figure out what was wrong with me. I had mold toxicity. I had pathogens, parasites, bacteria overgrowth, yeast, candida. You get it all when your defense systems are down. So athletes, we are not invincible. I bet all of you have leaky gut at some level. If you exercise over 45 minutes, if you exercise in the heat, you are probably having damage to your gut wall lining. And I know so many people have H. pylori in their stomach, their organ in the stomach, and that they're not able to digest protein and break it down, and having their first line of defenses being gone, or their guards are not as many. So you get a little more bacteria, bad guys entering in. So let me go into my screen here and share some things on fasting for athletes to get us started on a new journey. So I wrote all this in a blog on debbiepotts.net on the podcast. So how much fasting is too much? Stress on your body is what I like to look at. Like, what is going on in my fasting experience to have the right amount? So there's some different guidelines that we want to choose to play with and see how we respond. So I have all this in the Low Carb Athlete Podcast fasting blog on my website. So here's a good study. Women burn more fat for a longer period of time if they eat before exercise and don't eat right after. Men who fast before exercise, then don't eat after exercise, tend to burn more fat. And this is from Ben Greenfield did a seminar with Dr. Pompa and has this in a podcast in his show notes. You can find in the link here on this website blog I have. So it's so fascinating. When women are given a little bit of carbohydrates before a workout, I would suggest Vespa is my favorite, just a small amount, because I'm not going to eat solid food and go work out because I'll be throwing up. So if women eat a little bit of carbohydrates before a workout, and I haven't found what exact amount that is, before they work out, then they go out, they do a workout, then they fast after the workout, they actually burn more fat. Men are the opposite. If they don't eat before a workout and they eat following the workout, then they burn more fat. So as the article says, we tend to see a little bit of difference in the sex response to this. Now you have to realize, always look at the study, who's it done on, because most all the studies are done on men, not women. And they're usually like 20 to 30 year olds. This study was done on lean trained individuals. So if you are a female athlete that's pretty lean, you might be in this category that you want to have a little something before you work out. Because I know my clients I've been helping they're not eating anything and they work out, and their workout's higher heart rate, they're causing, in my opinion, more damage to their hormones and their thyroid health with this fasted workouts every day. So I think we need to be cautious as females, especially premenopausal and menopausal, where we're placing our nutrients. So before or after. So other thing it says is that if you fast up the workout, you'll see a good increase in fat oxidation after the workout. So women can try that, but know that men are going to be different than women. So there's different links here I put in the blog. Stacy Sims, on the other hand, is not for metabolic not metabolic efficiency. She's into not fasting and having a little more carbs. And there's an article I put in my blog here you can go find, is the damage it could do to not eating anything. So look at her article. Again, it's all N=1. I don't think there's not one size fits all approach. There's not exact science on the nutrition for you as an individual. I like on a longer workout for myself to do Vespa before my long run and have water, and I do coffee, put sea salt in my water, and then my coffee drink in the morning. I do add some collagen creamer in there as picnic, or I have some other ones that can add in vital proteins and some keon aminos. I think is great. My water with some Redmond sea salt and have a little something. I think what happens, we feel guilty because we are that type of individual, that if we fast before the workout, and I'll stop sharing my screen, but if we fast before the workout, we feel like we're stronger, we're more invincible, versus if I have a little something that has calories in it, am I cheating? Am I breaking that fast? And sometimes it's okay to break that fast, have some MCT oil, collagen creamer in your coffee before a workout, and have some water with some aminos and sea salt and see how you feel. So I say, experiment, try it out. Is your workout better? Or if you are not even losing weight, is what I started thinking about. Why am I doing this, a prolonged fasting, when I'm, still would go for a swim and a bike ride, low heart rate exercise, but I could go long. Yes. Hey, I cannot eat all day. And you can brag about, oh, I'm fine, I can do all this exercise and I haven't eaten yet. Well, is that good for you? Are you causing more damage to your body and adding more stressors to your already overfilling bucket of stress? Or is it helping you? Are you losing weight? Are you doing it to lose weight? Because I see a lot of people that do fasted exercise and they're not losing weight. And then there's, of course, those are mostly females, and then the men can do it. So women, you might want to try having that spud beforehand. Try adding a little MCT oil and some aminos into drink before you work out and test it out. But I think N=1. If you want to join in my journey of 2022 Sense of Space Age podcast on the Low Carb Athlete Podcast, follow along, help spread the word for your other athletic friends if they want to learn more how to increase their ability to burn fat, performance, and longevity. We'll talk all about that coming up here. So stay connected, debbiepotts.net. I'm the Low Carb Athlete on Instagram and a Facebook page. So I look forward to talking to you more. Thanks for listening. Hi guys, it's Debbie Potts, the host of the Low Carb Athlete, and I am just doing a quick little, well, I say quick, it always ends up being longer than I think, but a little recap of what I've been working on the last few months as I stopped recording for the podcast in the summer, and now it's December, and I'm launching a new season of the Low Carb Athlete Podcast January 4th, 2022. And this will be 10 years of this podcast with different names, as I just recorded an intro for this. It was originally John Smith and I did Fit, Fat, Fast. All about athletes eating more fat to burn fat, get faster, being fat-fueled athlete. We did 100 episodes, which you can find in the archives on my website, debbiepotts.net. And then John had to leave and the show's name got lost and we had to start a new name, and I had it just a fun name called Shut the Front Door, just shock people of topics that we never hear about. And then we decided that's not such a great name, so let's call it The Whole Athlete, because that goes with what I created years ago, the holistic method, those 8 elements we want to work on to really be a fat adapted athlete as well as healthy athlete on the inside and out. And those 8 elements we talk about in the show a lot, and I'll be doing a little bit more onto each topic the next season: nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress, movement, mobility, digestion, gut health, hydration, and happiness, play, gratitude that we all need to have every day, ideally. So we'll be diving in the new season of the Low Carb Athlete. This is, I had to change the name last year, 2 years ago. We've been the Low Carb Athlete, which is fitting because it's about being a fat adapted athlete, working on performance and longevity, not just burning fat, but focusing on performance gains in life and sports. What I want to focus on this next season is trying to get more experts on the show to be guests, to dive into fasting, as I've heard so much this past year, 2 years about fasting, intermittent fasting, 3-day fasts, all this information on cell autophagy, doing 72-hour fasts. And what I think we need to address for our audience is, what do we do with that information we're getting out there by the fasting experts if we are an athlete? What if we're working out, training for Ironmans, we're doing long distance cycling events and running, and we are doing more than one workout a day? What do we do for fasting? Then what do we do for a cycling female? We have menstrual cycle, our hormones are up and down each month. What do we do for a menopausal female athlete, premenopausal, postmenopausal? There's a lot to address and make sure it isn't just this one size fits all approach of great information we're getting from fasting experts on keto, fasting, and metabolic flexibility, keto flexibility. But let's dial that in more for you, the athlete, the ambitious, driven, high-performing, high-charging athlete of any level, whatever sport you do, and male versus female. What information should we pay attention to? What I like to say is those red flags, are we listening to them that our body gives us when we need to stop fasting, when we need to stop going so low carb, stop eating so much fats, individualize it. And I actually created a website linked to intuitive fueling. What about being the intuitive athlete, learning how, once you're fat adapted and you have leptin and ghrelin signaling working, so you know when you're hungry, you know when you're full, you're paying attention to those signals, then let's individualize it a little bit more by working on our intuition. When should I eat something before a workout? When is it okay to not eat and go extend that fast a little bit longer? When should I have a little extra carbs, and when should I have them based on my workout schedule and what time a day I'm working out, what I'm doing, that intensity level, and stress in our life. So much to dive into. So I'm just going to share a little bit of stuff I've been collecting in a Word document on fasting and exercise benefits, and then I started a page to post on my own files, fasting for women and female athlete. So there's lots to go into. There's tons of information here because I already have 23 pages of articles. And as I do coaching for Ben Greenfield, his new company we started in January of this year, so almost a year being a coach for Ben, that I've done his Keon coaching program, and 10 years ago did a superhuman coach program, as well as my Czech Institute holistic lifestyle coach, nutritional therapy practitioner, and a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner called FDN, where I put all this together. And working with Ben, or for Ben, not really with him so much. We have monthly calls, and I learn a lot, and I I need to listen, part of my job, to all of his podcasts and read all of his books and his blogs, because he does all the research. So my go-to page to find research and all the links are Ben Greenfield Fitness and his podcast and his show notes, because Ben doesn't go into anything without getting scientific evidence when possible and getting the best people on his show, as well as sharing that information and putting all these links together in his show notes. So his team does an amazing job. So I wanted to go into the first part here, 10 benefits of fasting exercise. Ben did a great seminar for Dr. Pompa at a conference a couple years ago, and this information is still valid. And I just want to share a little bit of it because it's all into my blog page, debbiepotts.net. And of course, bengreenfieldfitness.com. You can find this transcript or the podcast on fasted exercise. So just look up bengreenfieldfitness.com, look under the episode on fasted exercise. So the top 10 benefits of fasting, doing fasted exercise, we're going to talk about today. Number 1, burning more fat. Number 2, anti-aging effect. Number 3, better brain function. Number 4, increased growth hormone levels, improved insulin sensitivity, increased testosterone. We all need that. Enhanced fat loss, of course, why we mostly want to do fasting. Better endurance, even more benefits. More stable gut during exercise, a biggie, as we'll dive into that one a lot this season, talking about leaky gut and the athlete, because if you, side note, training over 45 minutes, if you're training in hot weather, you're probably increasing your chance of getting intestinal wall that's damaged, more permeable, which means leaky gut, which means holes in your gut, which means the stuff that's in your gut that's not supposed to leave seeps out through creaks and crevices and basically transcellular and paracellular. And that can lead to all sorts of inflammation in your body. So we'll dive into that a lot. Actually recording a podcast this week on the Wheat Zoomer, going over my results on my gut health and huge sensitivity to wheat that I did not know about. Lastly, number 10 of the benefits of fasted exercise is hunger management. You might feel a lot of that, not see it, but feel it yourself when you do fasting, when you're more fat adapted athlete. One thing I'm going to note today in this brief podcast, just to get you rallied up and ready to go in January for this new focus on my podcast. Every Tuesday we'll have a new episode, and you can check out the YouTube channel to watch my videos. Even now I have them released. Men versus women. Interesting information here I keep trying to share to my coaching clients. So, quote from Ben's podcast on a seminar on fasted exercise. In the studies that have been done on men versus women and fasted exercise, what they found is that women who eat before breakfast but then do not eat after exercise tend to burn more fat for a longer period of time compared to the opposite scenario, when men are completely the opposite, as most of these guidelines. What works for men is going to be different than women. Men who fast before exercise then don't eat afterwards right away tend to burn more fat. So what they're saying is that women burn more fat for a longer period of time if they eat before exercise than do not eat right after exercise. On the other hand, men who fast before exercise then don't eat right away after their workout tend to burn more fat. So we'll go into that later on, but often it's waiting about 90 minutes before you have your food after exercise. And it's related to how women versus men work. Women tend to be more efficient at burning fat as fuel compared to men. when women are given a little bit of carbohydrates. And what I want to learn more is like, what is a little bit and what type of carbs are best for us. Then women who have that little bit of carb before a workout, they go out, they do a workout, then they fast after the workout, they're burning more fat than if they didn't eat anything before a workout. So opposite of what a lot of us female athletes have been doing. For years is why I'm focusing on this topic. I was doing fasting. I was doing bulletproof coffee. I was eating extremely low carb 10 years ago, before all this was big, as an Ironman athlete and doing 50K runs and doing marathons. I was doing all this, but why I'm motivated to talk about this is that I still got a so-called adrenal exhaustion, even though I was a fat-adapted athlete doing all the right things. So women might actually feel better and have less hormone dysregulation if they have a little something, which is good to me because I like to have a little something in my coffee as a keto creamer by Picnic, or have a little Vital Proteins collagen in there, and that might be good enough for me. Okay, so men, they're the opposite. Men don't eat before the workout, then they eat following a workout, so wait that 90 minutes or so, they can burn more fat. So I don't know exactly, I'll have to look that up, how long men should eat or what time frame post-workout they should eat. But you can look this up in this podcast notes with all the research articles are in the show notes. So men and women are different, obviously. Dr. Stacy Sims has talked about for years in her book Roar, and focusing on her business, that women are not small men. But everyone's going to have different recommendations. And I think what you should do is individualize that information we're getting, those guidelines. There's not a one-size-fits-all for the female athlete or the male athlete or just the athlete in general, because we're all different. So we need to individualize this, use it as a template, use this information and experiment and see how your body feels, how your performance gains are. Was that workout stronger? Did you feel faster? Did you have more power? Did you feel energized post-workout, or were you feeling exhausted? So there's a lot to go into. Okay, so what Ben says at the end of this article in a seminar that he gave for Dr. Pompa's conference a few years ago, that the caveat, as all these studies are on, you got to look at who was this research based on. Because a lot of these studies, as we are starting to pay attention to, are done on men, not women. And then you look at the age group and what level they are. So that's why there's not a lot of research on what to do with female athletes with fasting and keto, low carb, because women that are cycling still, they have their hormone cycle changing, and it's hard to get, hard or even impossible to get a group of female athletes to do a study that are all starting their menstrual cycle the same day. It's not going to happen. So the other thing is that this study was done on lean trained females. So that information that I just shared with you, eating something small before a workout, would be appropriate if you are a lean active female. Because Ben has said and taught us as coaches that there's a lot of female athletes that are doing too low of carb, too much fasting, and not doing, I'd say like what Ben Azadi talks about, doing the metabolic flex or keto flexibility, that you're doing keto, and as Ben does, refeed carbs at night, or doing keto and then a refeed day on the weekend. I think athletes can do a little more carbs and still show nutritional ketosis and have great performance gains, but women need to experiment. Is that carb refeed once a week, or is it every day at the end of the day? And Ben talks a lot about that, how keeping low carb during the day and then have more of a carb heavy meal in the evening. Again, looking at your timing of day when you're exercising and what type of workout you're doing, we'll dive into more later. But that's something Ben does, more carbs at night. And then if you work out in the morning, you still have, it must look like a gym fuel. And then, looking at when you're eating, when you're exercising, time of day for everything, where to place your meals, and like we talk about having those aminos and creatine and where that all fits in is so individualized. And that's what we do as a coach, kind of figure out the timing for everything, what works best for you. Okay, going on back to this article as I ramble off again, that the studies, as I said, are based on the lean active female might do best having something before they eat. So they do want to avoid having those hormone imbalances that we see a lot in lab testing working on driven individuals, female and males. I see a lot of hormone imbalances. But what Ben's sharing in this seminar is that you can see that if you fast after the workout, you can see increase in fat oxidation for women. And then some of the studies that have been done on men versus women are really fascinating. And that's what I want to dive into more in this next season, because I think it's something we need to discuss more often. And I don't think there's enough podcasts out there kind of diving into this information for the endurance athlete, for the driven, ambitious, high-performing, high-charging athlete, because we tend to take this information, and we're usually type A, AAA personality, that we take it to the extreme and stop paying attention to our own body's signals, red flags, and know when to stop that fast, when to break the fast, when to have something to eat, when to have fat, when to have protein, when to have carbs. So we'll dive into that each week, and hopefully you can learn something new and get a coach to help guide you into the best protocol for you. If it's me or somebody else, just get someone to help you. So the 10 minutes fits of fasting exercise, I'll put the link in the podcast show notes here today, but great information. There's a book Ben talks about, Change Your Schedule, Change Your Life, that I really want to read next, a Ayurvedic medicine book, talk about the important things you can do. As I talk about my holistic method is movement throughout the day, what to do in the morning before exercise, and having your biggest meal of the day, maybe it's lunchtime, and then having something lighter at dinner time, having that morning sun exposure and sunlight during the day when you can, getting out, moving from your desk, getting outside, getting fresh air is so important. And when timing of sleep, dinner time, the whole thing, we kind of look at that ideal day for you when I coach people. So looking at the goal to increase beta oxidation, increased fat oxidation, 24 hours post-exercise is a big benefit that they see through the fasted exercise when done in the morning before breakfast. But we need to go over what type of exercise that is. When we work one-on-one, we work on, is it a light, easy walk? Is it easy swim, low heart rate, kind of maffetone type of workout versus a HIIT training or, hard cycling session? Are you doing the Peloton? Are you doing intervals running or running with friends that your heart rate's way above your MAF zone? So that's going to be different. So we need to look at, all right, what's the best time of day for you? I know as we discussed, working out easy in the morning, best time of day to do harder workout, maybe it's like 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock before your dinner, and figuring out that for you. But it's also best time of the day to work out, and I always love this, is when you can work out. There isn't the ideal time, it's just working out when you can and stick with it, be consistent. For me, I like to wake up and work out after a little coffee and make my French press. I go do yoga on my kind of active recovery rest days, or I go for a bike ride in the morning, or I go for a run on the road by the beach, or trail running where I live. Then I often swim at lunchtime. 11:45 to 1 o'clock is my master's swim class. I'll go to 3-4 days a week just to get a break. I like that social interaction, and it's outdoor pool, so I get some time outside. And it's just nice to step away from my computer, or else I go crazy working on a computer all day, especially being a personal trainer, owning a fitness studio for 10 years and being in a gym. Working on my own by myself is a little challenging some days. So swimming is my outlet. It'll be kind of usually more of an easy swim. I don't push myself too hard, but it's a good break, active movement. And then I lift weights at nighttime. And my HIIT training or high interval training will be more in the morning is when I feel best. I'm not really an evening person, so my workouts at night, unless I feel really energetic, will not be my high heart rate workouts. My best time of day is kind of mid-morning for that stuff. So Wednesdays I do speed workout running, and then biking on hills will be like a tempo pickup day. If I do one day a week riding hills, that will be my high-low heart rate intervals. And then, I haven't been finding a day to do a hard hit strength workout with, say, box jumps and burpees. It might be Wednesday nights when I do more of a leg workout. So the ideal schedule, different for everyone. I hope it changes seasonally, as we shouldn't do the same workout all year. It should be kind of more quarterly based on the seasons, based on where you live. You might find, wintertime isn't ideal weather for outside, so you might change it up and do more strength training, preseason work, doing more outdoor endurance exercise in the spring and summer. Wintertime, maybe doing some snow sports wherever you are. I moved from Seattle to San Diego, North County last year, so I do, today was a little cooler. When it's 60 degrees, it's cold here. And I find my best time of day, and seasons change a little bit, and try to do more the strength training right now in December as I record this. So best time of day for fueling training is individualized, but here's some guidelines I'll finish up the show today with. A question that Ben was asked that I kind of go over with clients is, how long should I wait after a fasted workout to eat? Some guidelines that Ben shares. If you've eaten in the past 4 to 5 hours, say you've had lunch, it's early afternoon, you're going to do an evening strength training session, then you wait to eat after you work out 1 to 2 hours. So if you've done a fasted overnight, you've done an 8 to 12 hour overnight fast, and you're doing a morning low heart rate exercise session, you can still see a growth hormone response if you have breakfast right after or in the hour after that morning exercise session. It depends when you should eat after workout, how long you've been fasting going into the exercise session. So Ben shares that the growth hormone, testosterone response are still there after you work out in a fasted state. So it's there to help you maintain and preserve muscle. He shares you can see an upregulation in the endurance performance because the body gets better at sparing glucose, at sparing glycogen, and it upregulates this enzyme called glycogen synthetase when you exercise. And the same thing happens with the growth hormone, testosterone, when you upregulate the sensitivity of the receptors that interact with growth hormone and testosterone. So lots of information in this episode of recorded seminar that Ben gave. I just really love the information here. So for the endurance athlete, there's lots of good information, when you should train low carbs, and then we should train high, and when you should do a fasted workout. So I think it comes back, looking at you as an individual, training in depleted states, train at night, not eat carbs, sleep overnight, train again, or if you eat carbs at nighttime before bed. And so there's so much we have to tweak for you. So it's not exact for one person, is going to be different than the other. So typically they do a low carb diet based on your genetics. We want to look at that. If you have the PPAR gene, you might not be able to have as much high fat. So we need to look at your genetics and your ancestry background to figure out what nutrition protocol works best for you. If it's a Weston A. Price Foundation or Weston A. Price type of food plan, or if it's a Mediterranean low carb keto type of plan, or if it's more of a keto carnivore, it's going to be a little different for everyone. So we want to look at your ancestry background, look at your genetics, look at your gut health, and look at your food sensitivities, or I like the Vibrant Wellness Food Zoomers that we'll talk about on an episode coming up. So that's some great information on here. There's a link to the podcast, so much to go into. So that's what kind of dive into that in the next year here, doing these episodes on men versus women, fat adapted or being keto adapted, and when you should be doing more intuitive fueling and intuitive training, and when you should change things up a little bit. So let me know your questions, what topics you want to hear more of on this show, and see what type of interest we get on these topics, because I think they're huge, but I don't know, maybe you're different. So we will keep connected, and I'll put everything on my website, debbiepotts.net, and you can send in your questions, comments, feedbacks there. If you could go to iTunes, give us a review, and get us showing up in the list, as you don't show up if you don't have reviews, and I'm horrible at asking people to share and promote the podcast and give 5-star review and share this if you like it. So talk soon, and we'll see you on Instagram, Low Carb Athlete, Facebook page, Twitter. You can find me there as well, and YouTube channel. You can find all the videos I've interviewed so far. See you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at debbiepotts.net. You can help us to continue to grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.